The rain started just before sunset and didn't let up for hours. By 9 that evening, the old road outside Cedar Hollow looked almost empty, except for one flickering street lamp, and the warm yellow glow spilling from Mose Whitaker's repair shop. At 68, Mose had spent nearly 40 years fixing engines in that little wooden garage on the edge of town. Most nights he locked up by 7, but he had stayed late trying to finish a transmission on a farmer's pickup before the weekend. That was when he heard motorcycles. Not the loud roaring kind from a distance. These were uneven, slowing, one sputtering badly. Mose stepped to the doorway and saw 4 bikers pulling up through the rain, soaked clear through, headlights reflecting off puddles. One bike coughed and died before it even reached the awning. The riders climbed off carefully, wet leather, mud on their boots, exhausted faces, and Mose noticed something else right away. The youngest one looked pale and shaky. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. The oldest rider introduced himself first. Name's Reuben. Hate to ask, but any chance we can get out of this rain a bit? Mose looked at the dead bike, then at the sky. Bring it in. That was all. He didn't ask where they came from, didn't ask why they were riding through weather like that. Just stepped back and held the door wider. The shop smelled like oil, old wood, and coffee that had been sitting too long on a hot plate. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead while rain hammered the roof. Mose rolled the broken bike under cover and crouched down with a flashlight. Bad voltage regulator. Not impossible, but not something he could fix without a replacement. The younger rider, his name was Lyle, sat on an overturned crate, rubbing his hands together. He couldn't have been older than 23. His jacket sleeves were dripping onto the concrete floor. Reuben and the others hovered awkwardly like men not used to asking strangers for help. Mose poured fresh coffee into paper cups. Only thing I've got is stale peanut crackers, he said. Reuben gave a tired laugh. That's still better than what we've had today. Woody, little by little conversation came easier. They were riding from Tennessee toward Louisiana for a veterans memorial ride. They'd taken a wrong turn, trying to avoid flooding near the interstate, and ended up on county roads. The weather got worse fast. Lyle admitted he'd barely slept. Mose noticed the kid staring at the wall of hanging tools and old license plates, like he was trying to stay focused. Long day? Mose asked. Lyle nodded once. Quietly, Reuben filled in the rest. Lyle had served overseas, came home a year earlier, hadn't been doing too well since. Reuben and the others had invited him on the ride because they thought the road might help. Mose didn't press. He understood quiet better than most people. His son Darnell had loved motorcycles too. 20 years ago, a drunk driver had taken him on a rainy road not far from there. Mose had kept the shop open afterward because he didn't know what else to do with himself. For a minute he looked at Lyle's soaked jacket and saw another young man trying not to unravel. Around midnight, the storm got harder. No hotels nearby. Roads flooding. Mose grabbed an old box fan, a stack of clean shop towels, and the spare cot he kept in the office. You boys staying here tonight? Reuben hesitated. We can pay. Mose shook his head. You can help me move that toolbox if you feel bad. That got a small smile. The hours passed quietly. Rain on tin, coffee warming hands. Lyle eventually fell asleep in the office chair with a towel over his shoulders. Mose sat at his workbench and kept staring at the dead regulator. Then he remembered. Years ago, he'd salvaged parts from an old bike behind the storage shed. At nearly 2 a.m, with rain soaking his cap, he dug through crates with a flashlight until he found it. Not exact, close enough. By dawn, the rain had slowed to a mist. Mose tightened the final bolt and tried the ignition. The engine fired immediately. The sudden sound filled the shop. Reuben looked up from the cot. No way. Lyle smiled for the first time all night. But that wasn't what stopped Mose. A second sound rolled down the road. Then another. Motorcycles. At least 20 of them. Mose stepped outside. A long line of riders pulled up in the pale gray morning. Rainwater shining on chrome. Engines idling. Reuben looked stunned. Turns out while they'd been stranded, another veteran rider had posted online asking if anyone had seen their group after they disappeared in the storm. Word spread through 3 counties. Overnight, riders came from nearby towns before sunrise to make sure they were safe and finish the trip together. Some Mose recognized from years back. One older man removed his helmet and stared. Mose Whitaker? Mose blinked. It was Calvin Briggs, a customer from decades ago, and Darnell's old riding buddy. Calvin stepped forward and shook Mose's hand. "Reuben told us what you did. Your boy talked about you all the time." Mose didn't know what to say. The parking lot slowly filled with engines warming and riders checking gear. Lyle walked over before mounting up. "Thanks for keeping us here," he said. Simple words, but steady, like he meant every one of them. Before leaving, Reuben tucked something under the coffee pot. After they pulled away, Mose unfolded it, a handwritten note for the parts, the coffee, and giving a tired group somewhere safe. "Memorial ride stops here next year if you'll have us." And folded inside was a small photo Calvin had kept for years. Darnell at 22, beside his motorcycle, smiling wide outside the same garage. Mose stood in the doorway while the last bikes disappeared into the morning fog. The shop felt quiet again, but not lonely. Comment, kindness still exists if you believe even one good act can change someone's life. And if this story touched your heart, please leave a like and share it with someone who still believes kindness matters. Sometimes kindness isn't loud. It's a warm light in bad weather, a cup of coffee after midnight, a stranger saying yes when they could have shut the door. And sometimes that's enough to carry someone safely into morning.